boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Boxing Scene recently uploaded a top 10 list of potential opponent options for Jake Paul now that he's in the market for a new opponent. To which Clarissa Shields responded, LOL, why am I on this list?
The fuck are you, stupid? Because you spent the last 5 years calling a guy out.
It's what a Twitter user who goes by the name He Who Knocks said, perhaps all your years of saying you can beat a man, if I had to guess. To which Clarissa responded, how about because I'm heavyweight undisputed world champion? How about because I have 2 Olympic gold medals?
Always with the 2 fucking gold medals. It's always about the 2 Olympic fucking gold medals. You calling him out, you starting this, that has nothing to do with it. It's the gold medals.
How about because I have 19 world titles? How about because I can fight really good?
How about you take some fucking accountability? How about that? You started this.
You did.
There's no real beef between Jake and Clarissa, just what she's managed to keep alive for the last 5 years. She threw the first punch. She started this. When he knocked out Nate Robinson in their influencer versus basketball player boxing match, she's the one who started carrying on about how she would knock out Jake.
Yep.
That's why you're in the running. That's why they mentioned you, because you injected yourself into this.
This is her way of being cute and coy, cute and dumb.
Why they mention me?
Because you mentioned yourself, you fucking jackass. So attention-starved. Currently, Clarissa Shields is being accused of purchasing views for her latest YouTube video, what was her response to Layla Ali, on the predication that the viewing figures don't match the crowd participation, that for a video that did 1.7 million views as of 7 days ago, it only got 7,000 likes.
And only got 2.8 thousand comments. For perspective,
Layla Ali's video got 265,000 views, far less than Clarissa's, but 22,000 likes. More than 2 times as many likes as Clarissa's video. How does that work? How does that happen?
and it got more comments than Clarissa's video, 8.6 thousand.
How does a video that got less than half the views that Clarissa's video got end up with more crowd participation, more likes, more comments? How does that happen?
She bought the views. That's what people are saying. That's what people are saying in her own comment section. That's what Remy Ma said on her own social media, that Clarissa bought the views. The reason I don't put it past her is she's attention-starved. She's the same one who came out with a novelty-sized Publishers Clearinghouse check to announce her call-out,
Right.
what was supposed to be her offer to Layla Ali. Is that how offers are normally made in the sport of boxing, with giant-sized Publishers Clearinghouse novelty checks?
When an offer was made to Alicia Baumgartner to fight Michaela Mayer, did Michaela produce a giant-sized novelty check? When Boxer made an offer to Clarissa on Savannah Marshall's behalf, is that what they did? Is that what Amanda Serrano did with Katie Taylor? Is that what Katie did with Amanda? Is that what's customary in the sport of boxing? You know the answer.
No, it's not. So why did Clarissa do it?
Attention. She wants the attention. There's got to be a lot of grandstanding, a lot of bells and whistles. She is attention starved. So when I see she's playing cute and dumb over Boxing Scene's list of potentials for Jake Paul,
There's nothing cute about her, but you got the dumb part right.
she's just happy to get the attention, happy to be mentioned by Boxing Scene, when the only reason she's mentioned is because she keeps mentioning herself, interjecting herself into his conversation, his lane, and she's been doing that, literally, for over 5 years.
You're surprised they brought you up? You spent enough time doing that yourself.
She tried to make it about her gold medals, she tried to make it about her belts, when it's really about her own actions that she doesn't want to acknowledge.
She wants to make it about how great she's supposed to be, when it's really about how overbearing she's been, how overbearing she is. And I think that a lot of people in the media don't work hard enough to point this out, which in turn enables her to keep doing it. But if there were someone out there, someone's holding a mirror up to her face to show her,
This is who you are. This is who you are. This is what you've been doing.
why don't they do it? Likely fear of being accused of misogyny, racism. That's what she'll resort to if anybody tries to put her in her place. She accused Showtime of being misogynistic because they didn't want to put her on pay-per-view, as if she's ever shown any ability to sell pay-per-views. That's what she said about them.
She called them misogynists. She called them sexists. So what do you think she'll do to some members of the media if they decide to hold her accountable, put her in her place, that the only reason you're in this conversation is because you put yourself there?
I don't give a fuck what she'll do because I'll point it out. I've been pointing it out. I'm gonna keep pointing it out. The woman is insufferable.
Cringeworthy, attention-starved.
I really wish Pep would just knock her up, get her pregnant so she can go away. Just go the fuck away for 9 months. Give us 9 months of peace.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, journalist Brian Campbell stated, "Not enough talk about the fact that Jake versus Tank wasn't selling at all."
What's he trying to say?
To which my old college roommate Robert Little responded, "That's what it all really was. I heard they were having a hard time selling ads, at least at the price that they wanted."
You don't know Robert Little.
That's not the point. It would seem that Brian and Robert are citing low interest and low ticket sales as the real reason that the fight got called off. Not Gervonta Davis's latest run-in with the law over domestic abuse, not the civil suit, but the fact that the tickets weren't moving the way that they wanted them to. And they're not the only ones saying this. Boxing insider Rick Glacier is of a similar mindset, saying, "Yes, we know the Jake Paul and Tank Davis exhibition has been canceled, but it was too much of a freak show from the moment it was announced. When the Georgia Boxing Commission rejected the exhibition for too much weight disparity, it was time to cut the bait then. To move it to Miami was a huge mistake. Boxing hasn't historically sold in South Florida since the 1980s. Factually, 1982, the legendary Aaron Pryor versus Arguello fight in Miami's Orange Bowl. Tickets were DOA, dead on arrival, for this Jake Paul event. Yes, Tank Davis is getting sued. But everyone knows Tank Davis has constant legal issues, but always reputedly and allegedly eventually buys off his victims. My thought. The civil legal issue of Tank Davis was just an excuse to dump the fight. We'll see Tank will never be an opponent for Jake Paul ever again, and when the new opponent is announced for a rescheduled date in probably what will be December, the promotion will not be taking the event back to South Florida. Tank Davis was really the scapegoat in this poorly constructed promotion. The promotional entity of Jake Paul should blame themselves. That's the way I see it.
That's the way Rick sees it. But is that the way it is? I disagree. I don't think that's the way it is. I think that we already saw a similar situation play out with Rolly Romero when he was under scrutiny for sexual assault. And Showtime made the decision then to pull him from the fight due to that open case. That's the same thing we're seeing here, that low ticket sales.
Guys are putting too much emphasis on ticket sales, which are really more for the boxing people anyway. If Netflix as a platform made an executive decision to pull the plug on this thing, it wasn't because of that, it's because Gervonta's got an open case. Civil suit or otherwise, those are bad optics for the platform, and they don't want to be associated with anything like that.
The views are their skin in the game anyway, not the ticket sales.
Putting too much emphasis on ticket sales as if that's what Netflix was really after. Gate receipts, gate revenue. What they were after was viewership. Whatever they were paying Jake and whatever they were paying Gervonta, they weren't hoping to make it back at the gate. They were hoping to make it back in the views. Viewership towards their platform, and they were likely going to get it since most everybody has Netflix.
There were a lot of people trashing this event, calling it a circus, and that's all well and good, but I guarantee you the night of, if it would have happened, they would have been watching. The people that like it and the people that don't. The people that don't like Jake, don't like Gervonta, they all would have tuned in. It would have been what everybody was watching that night. And that's what Netflix was after. For a broadcaster, a platform like Netflix, that is their skin in the game. Not so much the gate revenue, but the viewership. And I reiterate, they were likely going to get it. So when you say that low ticket sales were the reason they pulled the plug, I don't think so.
Put your tinfoil hats away. Even if the event wasn't doing all that well at the gate, what Netflix was relying on was people watching it at home.
If Netflix wanted the event to go through, then it would have gone through if that's what Netflix wanted, because they're the ones who were in charge. Not Jake Paul, not MVP, Netflix. The money and the money for the promotion, all of it, was coming from them.
They're the boss.
You say that, well, Netflix had to be aware of all of Gervonta Davis's prior legal issues and his long history of domestic abuse accusations. Why was that not a factor until now?
Because he didn't have an open case until now. It's one thing for something to have happened in the past. So many people in boxing already have a sketchy past, sketchy history. The past is in the past, but that you have an open case now, they don't want to get all wrapped up in that jackpot.
Oh yeah, let's continue to promote the fight with the guy accused of dragging a girl into a parking lot and punching her in the mouth.
You guys are overanalyzing this, overthinking it. While it is alarming that the ticket sales weren't moving all that well, it is worth noting that's not the real reason Netflix would have pulled the plug.
Case in point, the tickets for the upcoming Ortiz versus Lubin fight aren't moving all that well. Can we expect DAZN or Golden Boy to pull the plug on that? Since it's all about the tickets.
No, right? Golden Boy hasn't pulled the plug on that. DAZN hasn't pulled the plug on that. And you know why? It's because it doesn't all boil down to the tickets, not to the broadcaster. Now, the one thing that Rick Glacier said that I do agree on is that Gervonta Davis likely doesn't have the luxury of spinning the block and coming back to this, even after this situation is over.
Even if by some lucky dog dick chance he can tidy it up and make it all go away, the optics are so bad that he likely can't come back to this. It's not an option anymore. And it was his intention to retire on the money he would have made from this. But if he can't make that money, does he retire or does he stick around?
No matter what I want this midget to do, he won't do it. I want him to fight Loma, he don't do it. I want him to fight Delfimo, he don't do it. He'll fight Devin, he don't do it. Shakur, he don't do it. I want him to fight Jake, he don't do it. I want him to leave, now he won't leave.
Yo, you know what's funny, yo?
I wanted this for Gervonta Davis. I wanted him to make that money so he can hurry up and get the fuck out of here. But now, we have to worry that he might stay.
What the fuck?
That's what we have to worry about now. He didn't make so much from that long array of pay-per-views to retire on. They've been lying about his numbers, you know. When I say that he did around 200,000 or just above or just under, yeah, that's just me being generous. That's just me being nice going off the numbers that they put out there. But what if I told you that the numbers that they put out there were exaggerated?
That they've been fudging the numbers for his pay-per-views for years. Inside sources.
You mean the people connected to the pay-per-view that might be lying to you so they can overstate his marquee value? The illusion.
They figured if they tell a lie enough times, eventually it'll be true.
I don't think Gervonta Davis made enough money to retire on, not even with the Ryan Garcia pay-per-view, the only one that he did that cracked $1 million, because he's an idiot.
He, like so many other athletes, so many other boxers, is likely to burn through that cash, and it's only a matter of time.
In men's heavyweight news, former unified champion Anthony Joshua will return this year after elbow surgery against an opponent that has yet to be announced.
On a date that has yet to be announced, on a show that has yet to be announced, or has it been announced already? They're being very cloak and dagger when it comes to Anthony's return. Anthony Joshua has recently undergone elbow surgery in the aftermath of his September 2024 knockout loss to Daniel Dubois. The defeat prevented Joshua from becoming a 3-time heavyweight champion, thus missing out on the IBF heavyweight title. It also prevented him from getting a shot at Alexander Usyk, which would have been for the undisputed heavyweight crown.
That would have been poetic if he would have won last year, because the very first title that Anthony won was the IBF title, and if he would have won it from Daniel when he had it, he probably could have capped off his career on that. Joshua's next move is unclear. Hearn previously stated that if Anthony Joshua did box this year, it would not be a main event. However, Hearn is also open to making the Jake Paul fight, given the uncertainty surrounding Gervonta Davis, who is now out of the running.
That would also pave the way for a Tyson Fury fight if the Gypsy King comes out of retirement. You've got about 3 dates left this year. By my count, November 15th, Eubank versus Ben 2, December 13th, Pacheco vs. Sajo, and the December 27th show, Inoue vs. Picasso, along with some strong support.
Will we see Anthony Joshua on any of these shows? Chris Mannix asked. Yes, Joshua will fight, just let me know where, over Jake Paul, Hearn said. The strongest argument for a 2025 return lies in regaining sharpness. By taking a fight now, Joshua can test the functionality of his repaired elbow and shake off the inevitable ring rust away from the full glare of the spotlight. This low-pressure environment is crucial for restoring his confidence and proving to himself and the boxing community at large that the knockout has not rocked his confidence. It's a lot more trouble to make a main event around Anthony than just scheduling him a warm-up fight on somebody else's card.
Because if it's a warm-up fight, should it even be a main event? Anthony commands a large enough audience that if you wanted to do that, you could, but it would perhaps take up more time than they would like. They want to get him out quickly. The primary reason for the delay is risk management. While the elbow surgery was reportedly minor, rushing back into a training camp, even for a tune-up, could make the injury worse. Professionally, even a carefully selected opponent carries a small but significant risk, and another defeat, even a competitive one, would be catastrophic for his career and severely devalue the potential Tyson Fury or Jake Paul paydays. Both Anthony and Tyson are coming right off of losses, and both boys have been out for over a year.
There are some dates that they didn't mention. They mentioned the Eubank versus Ben rematch, and they mentioned the Diego Pacheco fight, the fight in Saudi with Inoue and Picasso, but there is also the recently announced Ghana card that Matchroom is putting on, headlined by Craig Spider Richards and Dan Aziz. What if Anthony makes his return on that show? That would be far removed from what he's used to and where he normally fights. It's all the way out there in Ghana.
He could make a quick run out on that show, get back in the winner's bracket, and be ready to start the calendar year off a win and not a loss. There's the Ghana card, there is the Monte Carlo card.
His cloak and dagger approach allows Anthony to ready himself behind the scenes without the added pressure of having to do media, having to do the rounds on the podcasts, people asking him questions, having to revisit that knockout loss to Daniel whenever it's brought up, as if it doesn't replay in his own mind enough, without people asking him about it. Doing things this way might be the right move.
Because remember, we're just talking about a warm-up fight.
Anthony commands a large enough audience, even now, that you could bill it as a main event if you want to, but there are time constraints. If the goal is to get him back out before this year is out, there's not enough time remaining to do a show around him. Now, winning a belt and becoming a 3-time heavyweight champion is contingent upon what route he decides to go, and I think he should probably go the WBA route. There's supposed to be a fight between Kubrat Pulev and Murat Gassiev very soon for a WBA regular title. I think Gassiev is going to win that fight, and I think that Anthony can beat Gassiev the same way that he beat Andy Ruiz years ago, sticking and moving and staying on his toes, using the jab. Winning that regular title would then line him up to fight for the full one.
Building his confidence along the way. That is the most viable route, in my opinion, to become a 3-time heavyweight champion.
We'll see when and where he decides to pop up.